You guys are always asking me, what do you do with everything you grow? There's so much. There's many different ways to preserve. I'll try to show you different canning I do or other things. This is for all the basil and all the other things that go into it, but pesto. I love pesto. I think everyone loves pesto. The traditional way is obviously with a mortar and pestle. That's why it's called pesto, because of the anyway. It's very simple. There are so many different variations. This is what I do, and you can make it to whatever taste you want. I use a food processor because, guys, it's so simple. It all goes in there, it gets blended together, and then I freeze it, and that preserves it all winter long for at least a year, and then I pull it out as I need in a little jar at a time, use it on pizzas, on pasta, salads, anything you want. And this way, all the extra basil I have right now gets used. So in here, I have my basil. I start by just taking all the leaves off. I bring it in whenever I need to because the more you pick it, the better it's going to do. You don't want to let it bloom if you can because that kind of makes it bitter and makes it stop producing. That signals to a plant that it's done. So if you keep using it, just throw it in a glass of water, keep it in your counter or your kitchen at room temperature. In the fridge, it can often turn black. So in here's my basil. Sometimes when I in the spring cut all my garlic scapes, which if you're following my stories, I talked about them. This is totally optional, but I throw those in there. They're just like a great flavor, a slight garlic flavor. You can actually just make a garlic scape pesto on its own, but I like to throw them in. And then for this one, I'll still do probably one small or just a piece of a garlic clove and not go as strong. Scapes have a little bit different flavor. So then your nuts. Traditionally, it's pine nuts. I sometimes do half and half. So I'm gonna do some pine nuts and I'm gonna do some walnuts. I always toast them beforehand. So these were toasted in a 350-degree oven for a little bit. I just think that brings a lot better flavor. Helps their oils come out too. It's just good. Then you put in your Parmesan cheese. That again, look how, okay, so yes, I have amounts to use, use this much of this much of this. Make it to how you want it, you guys. You do not need to follow. This is pesto, so any of the different amounts, it's gonna be delicious. You want a little bit of lemon. Acidity, it just helps one, keep the color. Two, it also just always plays with other flavors and wakes up your taste buds so you taste all the flavors. So it really is a great thing to kind of counteract all the strong flavors. And it goes really well. I'm making a big batch, by the way, as you can tell. It goes really well with basil. Now, I forgot my salt. Let me grab the salt. So, you want a little bit of salt too. As you know, it balances out the flavors, it brings out the flavors. It's important. And this is a big batch. So then right into here, I'm just gonna put my oil. Sometimes I chop it up a little bit beforehand, but I think we're gonna be just fine. Now, this is where some people like a little bit thicker, some people like it a little bit more runny, depending how you're gonna use it. You can play with that. Put in some oil, put in half the amount to start, and then keep going to what you want. Oil also really helps preserve it, and I think it freezes better with a good amount of oil. And then we're just gonna put the top on, and we're gonna pulse it. I like a little bit of texture to it. I like to see kind of what's in there, kind of make sure you know. I'm gonna just taste it here because you gotta know. That's delicious, actually. I actually don't think I'm gonna change anything other than add a little bit more oil. I like it to be a little bit more runny. What's great too is, I have different recipes up on my website for pestos. You can do cilantro pesto. You could do it with arugula even, or parsley. You can do so many different greens. You could do no basil at all. You can really play with it, change the nuts up, add in different flavors. So then at this point, once it's ready, I'm just gonna put it into little jars. I'm doing little jelly jars. Sometimes I do weck jars. And then I will put a lid on top and I'll freeze it. It freezes beautifully. When I put it into the jar, I'll put a thin layer of oil over the top. That helps seal it in, helps keep the color. Throw it in the freezer. Literally, guys, in December, in January, in February, pulling this out is like having summer right there. So it uses everything that's ready now, any time of the year you want it. So that's one of the things I love to do with all my extra basil. It's a great way to preserve it. If you like this, make sure to share it around. Tell me what else you want to see. Tell me how you're gonna use this and what you're gonna do with it, and make sure to tag people so they can see it too, because We all should be preserving. This is the easiest way to preserve. Easier than canning, easier than anything. Okay, I have more to do. I'm gonna stuff into jars. Hope you love it.